Hello there. My name is Gloria Williams with Gloucester County's Community Engagement and Public Information Department. Today, I am very excited to have the opportunity to chat with Dr. Walter Clemons, warmly referred to as Dr. C, and he is the Superintendent of Gloucester County Public Schools. Dr. C, thank you for coming today.
It's an honor, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, there is so much to talk about, and it has been an incredible year and a half, 2 years. And so again, we're just so grateful for you taking the time to talking with us today about the schools, a little bit about you, and some of the things that you're excited about for the future.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Gloucester County Public Schools?
Well, I'm the superintendent of schools, and I'm in actually my 32nd year in public school education, and this is my 11th year as superintendent, 8th year in Gloucester, and I was 3 years serving as superintendent on the Eastern Shore before coming to Gloucester. I've had a great educational career, and Gloucester has been a wonderful community in which to serve, and my family and I have really enjoyed being here over the past 8 years and serving the community. And of course, when you're superintendent of schools, you want to do all that you can to work effectively to serve, to meet the best needs of the students, the families, the staff, and the entire community.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. And it's hard to believe that you've been here 8 years. They have flown by.
Yeah, it's starting in July, this past July 1. So I'm currently serving in my 8th year now.
Well, this has been an unbelievable year. I mean, certainly with the pandemic, something that none of us would have anticipated. But we're making it through. And I think it was incredibly obvious the crucial role that the school system plays in each family, connecting families to the community. And Gloucester County Public Schools has done such an incredible job of, I think you and I talked about it, taking an offensive position throughout the pandemic, making choices for the families and the students, and continuing to keep everybody safe, but also constantly moving forward. And for that, you should be very proud, and we are very proud and very appreciative. Could you talk a little bit about, the school administrators and staff and how they adapted to the challenges that the last school year brought, and how well of a job you think that everybody did adapting?
Yeah, I think that, of course, no one would have probably ever imagined that we would have to go through a worldwide pandemic that would basically have your educational system come to a halt in terms of what you normally expect. But I think it should, show everyone to never take the little things for granted, the things that you think that are normal, just everyday happenings that you wake up and you just never imagine those things not being there. And school has been one of those things, that we provide a service to our students and our families and our community, and it just becomes a part of your life. So when it is interrupted, then it's a jolt and a shock to everyone, and you have to then reacclimate yourself and readapt and think about what's next in terms of how you're going to continue to serve. Because even though the pandemic has caused an interruption, there's still an expectation that you serve your students, your families, and your community to the greatest extent. And so we're excited about looking at having students back in person 5 days a week. But I give credit to the staff. I don't think that anything that you do, you're only as good as the people that you work with. And so Gloucester has been blessed to have, wonderful teachers, wonderful building level administrators, central office personnel who really try to provide support in all situations. So I think even in the most challenging times, there wouldn't be another group of people that I'd want to go to battle with, um, from what I have seen. And we've had lots of support from the community, and of course our county counterparts as you and the board of supervisors, and providing funding for us and trying to help us with the necessary resources that were needed to try to help navigate through, a very trying time. And so I'm very thankful for, all of those pieces that, played a part in terms of us trying to work to be as successful as we possibly could. And, we still have work to do. The thing that I, fully acknowledge that we're still in a pandemic, unfortunately.
Mhm.
And we're seeing some elements of, the pandemic that we were hoping for, that we'd really be turning the corner from, is starting to, creep back in. And so that's going to be another element that, all school divisions will have to take a look at, as well as their localities, not only across the Commonwealth, but across the country. And how do we start to prepare students? And the goal is to get students back in school, you know, every day, but also still acknowledging the fact that we're not out of the woods, so to speak, in terms of navigating through the pandemic, and still trying to, do all that you can to work through that and provide the best level of service for your community.
Well, that's absolutely right. If we had this conversation 3 weeks ago, it would have been a completely different conversation. And it's a stark reminder that we are still in the midst of the pandemic and the really tough decisions that you have to make, that your team has to make, and that your staff and custodians and everybody has to carry out every single day. You touched on this a little bit, but what do you think are some of the major challenges that you as a school division are going to face going into the new school year?
Well, I think that, you know, making sure that we continue to, I think it's an opportunity, but it's a challenge at the same time. Being in the pandemic, you have students that are in all different environments. And when you start to come back, hopefully, to a greater sense of normalcy, then all of the students are meshing back into one environment. And for us as leaders and teachers, trying to make sure that we do all that we can do to make students and families feel comfortable, feel safe, and give them educational experiences that are going to be meaningful based on where they are. Because we're going to have to meet every child where he or she is and do all that we can to serve to the greatest extent possible. And so that's going to be a challenge. But I think that we've got the staff who will rise to the occasion. You know, as we said earlier, we still are navigating through a pandemic. And as you noted, there are going to be some important decisions that are going to be upcoming that, have not been made yet. But, one of the big things that is being talked about around the country now is, well, what's going to be the status of masking? And even though that is a local decision at this point, and I think school divisions are grappling with, so what does that mean? Because we know, and Gloucester is not unique from what I've seen in other counties. That's a very emotional subject, and with people have varying, dispositions. There's some who are strongly opposed to wearing masks. They feel that that is something that they should have a choice for, students and families. And I totally understand that perspective. And then there are others who would say that, yes, you continue to mask because masking provides the greatest protection possible in terms of trying to continue students free of interruption from, in-person learning. And so, our board will have to, take a look at that and decide, what our framework will be. We're continuously getting guidance that comes from the Virginia Department of Health, the Virginia Department of Education, looking at the Center for Disease Control's recommendations as well. And so those are going to be big decisions that are going to be coming up. You have those political challenges, you have those environmental challenges, you have the academic challenges. So those are the types of things that we have to try to continuously work with our community on to provide the best level of service and understanding. But at the end of the day, I'm confident that we will be able to do that successfully because, again, I think we've got a great staff, we've got great teachers, we've got a great community. Community members don't always agree on everything, but at the end of the day, I don't see any community that does. And so, I'm thankful for the community, even in disharmony. Sometimes you have harmony, sometimes you have disharmony. But I think that you know, from what I can see, most people are well intentioned. Um, their views are their views, and you have to respect that. And we've got a great school board, and so I think that we'll come to making decisions that we feel will be best to move the school division and the community forward.
What are some new initiatives and programs that you're most excited about going into the new school year?
Well, I think there are quite a few things that, I'm excited about. I mean, this past year, or for the upcoming year, we made some actual personnel adjustments and administrative changes that we feel are going to be very successful for our school division. We had lost some positions over the years in terms of providing support in our Department of Special Education and the Department of Student Services. So we're able to bring that support back into the school system and add some additional support in virtual programming and history and science. And we think that's going to be very positive, for our schools outside of the personnel realm to start to think about, some of the things that we are excited about. Of course, the county funded all of our capital improvement projects in 1 year. And, Gloucester High School has been on the capital improvement plan since 2008. So to start to see a scope of services start to be developed so bids can go out to start a process, in the next year for a high school that has been long overdue is exciting. To think about a new transportation facility, finishing up the bus loop at Achilles, a long time need, looking at all of the HVAC projects that we have that are upcoming, playground equipment, transportation communication systems, bus radios, trying to have bus apps that will provide parents an opportunity to be able to locate where their kids, are at all times. I mean, there's a lot of good things that are, happening on that end. And just getting back in and seeing how we adapt to being in school 5 days a week, getting used to those norms and routines and operational procedures and, still taking into, account health and safety measures. There's still a lot of things that still have to be navigated because we're still operating in a pandemic.
Well, there's so much going on. I mean, so many wonderful things that are going to be new to this year and so much to consider. And I just, it's really nice to talk to you and to just hear in your words so we can all understand all of the decisions and all of the things that the school system is weighing when they make every single decision. Would love to ask you questions about masks and sports and how many in a classroom, but all of these things are just still question marks until we get a little further.
Yeah, and we'll see, like I said, the first month, we'll have an idea of, how many kids we are serving, because at the end of the day, you do your best guesstimate. I guess what I'm pleased with is that, it appears that, basically our students will be returning. Our families are looking forward to them coming back to being in person. There's some hot button topics that are out there that may influence the decision of some families one way or the other. But I believe that, we've got a great school system, we've got great teachers and staff, and I think that our families have been very supportive, and I think that they want to send their kids back to school.
Before I ask you our last question today, with the town hall, with some of these more heated topics, what would you, if a parent feels like they are unheard, or if a parent feels like they have concerns, What would you recommend as the best way for them to express those concerns or to have their questions answered?
Well, there's a multitude of ways. One, and we did this last year, and we're going to make sure this is up on our website for families. Um, it's more like a flow chart of, you know, who do you call, or when you need help, you know, because there's so many variables in terms of what your issue may be.
Right.
It could be a budget and finance, question. It could be an instructional question. It could be a student discipline question. So there are many elements of a school division's, operations. We always say that if it's a building level issue, then the best place to start there is with a teacher or the building level administration. Because if things that are happening at the building level, that's usually where you're going to get the greatest opportunity to resolve your issue. If it's more of a division level type of item, then a capital improvement item, a budget item, a human resources item, then there, people that are overall division-wide instructional item. You know, Dr. Wagner is our, assistant superintendent for instructional services. So when it comes down to the overall framework of, instruction, he's going to be a great resource to talk to at the central office level. So we have, designated people. When it comes down to curriculum and curriculum resources, again, you start with your building level and it can work its way up. Talked about some of those critical things that have come up, in terms of what may be considered to be controversial materials or things of that nature. So what we want the community to know, there is a process that you do have if you have concerns about learning resources. Then we want to know about it, because then we can investigate. So we want to make sure that parents have a level of comfort, so that if there's something that concerns them about something that we are doing, you can definitely, ask us questions about it, and we'll do everything that we can do to answer that question. And if it's something that we see that is actually happening in some sense that's inappropriate, then we would work to make sure that we take care of that. And if you've got questions at any point in time, again, you have people to call. But I would say normally, my advice has always been, and as a parent, of a child in the school system, outside of the superintendent hat. So, I try to look at it in two roles. I'm the superintendent of schools for the division, but first and foremost, I'm a parent of a child in the school system. And if there are times when they need to go beyond that, there are avenues for that as well.
Well, thank you for that. And I do appreciate that. And I think that it's just really important. I mean, certainly from the Community Engagement and Public Information Office, we really encourage our community to ask questions, to go to the source, to reach out to your school board member, to reach out to your teacher, to call administration, to make those phone calls, check the website, go to the school's Facebook page. These are resources that will be able to provide you the best, most up-to-date and accurate information. So I appreciate you going through that a little bit, and would like to encourage our community that if they do have questions, if they have concerns, I mean, if they have, positive feedback, if they want to love on, let everybody know how hard they're working and what they appreciate, go to staff, go to administration, and let them know.
Absolutely. So we've got a great staff, and I said, I would put the staff up against any staff, and I'm always appreciative of what our staff does on a day-to-day basis. And I think that I generally, feel confident in saying that, I feel that we have a staff that will try to help resolve, every issue. Like I said, and it doesn't mean that every issue is always resolved to someone's satisfaction, but I think there's an earnest effort in trying to do all that you can to support your students and your families to the greatest extent possible.
All right, Dr. C, my last question for today. How can the community at large best support Gloucester County Public Schools?
Well, I think that, as you said, um, it kind of, I would say, aligns to what we just talked about. One, um, continuously becoming involved. I would say that the biggest support that a school system can get is from involved community members. If you want, as a parent, get involved in your child's school, see what's going on, get involved in activities, be a part of the PTAs or PTOs, and have constant communication with your child's teachers and your child's administrators. I think for a parent, that type of activity really helps you stay on top of things as it relates to, um, your child having a successful experience. And then coming out and, all of the different types of activities, we've been limited over the last 15 months as to what can actually happen. Hopefully we won't be as limited this year in those things and we can get back to a greater sense of normalcy. Um, and, just, showing support for those types of things. And then just general overall support. Like I said, I think that it's like anything else. There are going to be things that people sometimes agree with in the school system, and there are going to be things that they don't agree with. But I would say that, I'd want people to know, regardless of whether you agree or whether you disagree, we will always try to make decisions that we feel are going to be in the best interest of moving the school system forward. And so knowing that and trying to be supportive to the greatest extent possible, even if it's something that you don't necessarily agree with, the school system is still trying to do, what it feels is going to be best in the long run, because we have to not only plan short term, we have to plan long term as well. And so, when you've got 5,000 kids that you have to serve in families, and each of them are in many ways unique, you have to try to make sure that you can serve to the greatest extent possible to try to meet the needs of all of your families. And with, so many nuances and so many differences, sometimes, things will go the way that people want them to go. And then sometimes there may be a different outcome. But no, at the end of the day, we're still trying to do all that we can to do what we feel is in the best interest of moving the school division forward. So just, staying positive about the school division, trying to support the school division to the greatest extent possible, and knowing the right people to call when you do have a concern, and knowing that we'll try to work with you. Because as you said, again, there are many platforms that people can express, displeasure. And while people have those rights, and I would never want to infringe upon someone's right to communicate in whatever platform that they feel is most appropriate for them, I would just say that the biggest way that you get, support is speaking to those individuals who can directly help try to resolve whatever the concern is, and that's usually at the building level, and then working your way up if necessary.
Well, Dr. C, thank you for joining me today for this important and enlightening conversation. Thank you for your leadership and your service to our schools, students, staff, and families in this wonderful community that we both call home, that we all call home. First day back to school for students in person this year is Monday, August 30th. And we just want to thank everybody who turned in for today's current conversations. For the most up-to-date information from the Gloucester County Public School System, you can find them on Facebook at facebook.com Gloucester County Schools VA, or on their website at gets.k12.va.us. As always, you can find the most up-to-date county information at gloucesterva.info or facebook.com at facebook.com/Gloucester VA. Again, Dr. C, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. Everyone, please stay safe, stay informed, and stay engaged. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria, and it's been a pleasure.
Make sure to tune in to next month's podcast, We will talk all things business with our Economic Development Director, Sherry Spring. We will also talk with Ken Pollock from Bay Aging and Bay Transit about Bay Transit's new micro transit service being offered right here in Gloucester County.